justices are going to make a legal opinion. They're what is known as dissenting opinion, which we'll get into, okay? There are concurring opinions where they agree with the decision, but have a different reason as to why the decision was made.
So they explain their decision. They don't just say, this is the ruling. They say, this is the ruling and this is why we made
That's
that
right.
ruling. Because those cases are going to be used in the future.
And so the opinion set a precedent, okay, for lower courts and future decisions. So the word precedent, what do you think that means?
What does pre mean?
Right,
What?
before, right? Okay, so what do you think this setting a precedent means what for lower courts in decisions? Once the Supreme Court makes a decision, what happens? What do you think happens? When a Supreme Court, Ruben, makes a decision, what happens? What happened in Obergefell versus Hodges?
Well, before that, what happened in 2008? Because the first case that went was with the Rainbow Coalition versus California. And the Rainbow Coalition sued California in 2008 because we had an election in 2008, and we said in the state of California, 68% of the voters said marriage is between one man and one woman, and that is the only thing that is going to be recognized as marriage in the state of California. And a group by the name of the Rainbow Coalition got together and they took that to court and said, you violated our rights. We might be a smaller sector of society, but our rights are violated. And they went through the state courts, and it went all the way to the state Supreme Court, and then it went up to, on a writ, it went up to the Supreme Court. Now, once that case, and the Supreme Court said we're not going to hear it, we're just going to hold the final decision of the California State Supreme Court. But when the Supreme Court makes a decision, who does it affect?
Who does it affect?
Everyone, right?
Right.
So at that point, what happened to the concept of gay marriage? It became legalized, right? It became legalized, and the precedent is set that it is now possible for people to get married if their state, grants them marriage certificates. For everyone.
So it is also the court's way of communicating with the president, Congress, interest groups, and the public.
The public, sorry, the
Okay.
public.
So this is the way that the courts, so for example, this has been happening a lot recently with issues with Trump, right? Which is the president has said, like for example, when he made the issue that certain individuals from certain cultures could not come into this country.
And from certain countries,
And from
he
certain
limited
countries
6
could not
countries
come
and
in.
said that we were not going to take
Okay.
any immigrants, and he made an executive order.
The Supreme Court, the lower Supreme Courts and the lower state Supreme Courts, some of them
Federal
said,
courts.
you cannot say that. You cannot do that. They can come in if they want. The U.S. Supreme Court came in and said he has the right to do that. Okay? And so therefore, he was able to say, listen, we're keeping this group out of the country for now from coming into this country for a threat of security. Okay? And so that's where the court communicates with the president. Okay? And they do the same thing with Congress or interest groups or the public. Okay?
They told the state of California, you can't deny gay marriage anymore, even though your populace voted against it, you cannot deny it anymore. So they communicated with the public.
The Supreme Court is free to choose which cases to hear. More than 90% are rejected. Okay, no guarantee the court will hear the case through a writ. Reviews approximately 100 to 150 cases a year out of approximately 8,000 received. Okay, so most cases are turned away. Okay, and many times, a lot of the cases that they receive are legitimate, but other times, people that are asking to have their case heard that are asking to hear their case heard are not aware of what the Supreme Court actually does. So they will actually send to the Supreme Court to have their case heard, but it's about nothing that has to do with the Constitution. And so therefore they deny that case. The court only reviews cases that involve a question of federal statutory or constitutional law. Okay? So they're only going to review a case that has something to do with either federal law, okay, or constitutional law.